a buck, yeah, stuck it out. Impressed by the words out the MC's mouths, I would imitate, try to spit it great. Just looking in the mirror, couldn't be any clearer. Future held stardom in my eyes, a sparkle out the window in the park. They rock non-stop. My introduction to the world of hip-hop. My mouth drooled at the sight of a mic. Saw ciphers get sparked underneath the street light. Either 40 ounces, reefer and 3 dice. I seek life through the culture that formed. Early 80s to now, took the world by storm.
Tupac Shakur is on everyone's list of the greatest rappers ever. His swaggering bravado, hardcore lyrics, and biting truth-telling made him a larger-than-life figure. His tragic death made him a legend, an icon, and a martyr. Though portrayed by the media as a great gangster rapper, he was also an activist, a revolutionary, and a fascinating young man. Shakur's story is poignant, inspiring, and tragic, especially when looked at from different and often conflicting angles, including the often overlooked history behind his revolutionary activist family life.
That's what it's all about. I was raised in the era of hip-hop. Right shoulder, carry a boombox. Chain swinging, Chris was singing. What I heard, what I heard.
Tupac's mother, Afeni Shakur, was born Alice Faye Williams. As a high school dropout, she hung out with gangs in North Carolina and later relocated to Brooklyn, New York. There, she met and dated a member of Malcolm X's security detail. This was her introduction to the radical faction of America's civil rights era. They were a long time ago, but Afeni remembers her earliest days in New York this way. Ray was my boyfriend. I guess that's what you'd call it. He was 33 and I was 18. We used to do things together. We go to all the events, discovering the new woman and new man we wanted to be. We would do LSD and sit on the fire escape, listening to Jimi Hendrix and Sly and the Family Stone, and we would visualize, actually dream about being hitmen, contract killers. We wanted to be professional killers. I think that was a common fantasy at that time. Black people were taking a lot of abuse, so you would dream of yourself as somebody who could and would take care of some of the grievances. This is pre-Panthers. Then I joined the Panthers, because they answered the needs of the people in my community. I believed in those programs, and I still believe in participating in your community. By 1968, the former Alice Faye Williams was now Afeni Shakur, a member of a New York chapter of the Black Panther Party, and wife of Lumumba Abdul Shakur, a prominent party organizer. The Black Panther Party was a free-thinking, radical, and revolutionary organization that advocated drastic change in the socio-political status of African Americans. Tired of America's foot-dragging and outright defiant response to Dr. Martin Luther King's peaceful protests, the Panthers decided to promote fair opportunity and the end of all racism and oppression for all people, by any means necessary. That meant they accepted and even promoted violence when needed. This elicited a lot of fear from a number of quarters throughout the country. And for that, the Panthers took a lot of heat from local, city, state, and federal law enforcement. In 1971, Afeni was one of 21 Panthers indicted in a controversial trial regarding a bomb plot. After her arrest, Afeni sat in the Women's House of Detention in Greenwich Village, patting her very pregnant belly. She declared she was carrying a prince, whose destiny was to save the black nation. The jury eventually freed all 21 defendants, including Afeni, before Lassane Parish Crooks was born on June 16, 1971. Lumumba was not Tupac's father, and the baby's father had already split from Afeni. To her credit, Afeni did notify Lumumba that her little black prince was not his. but Afeni wouldn't reveal who Tupac's real father was. She did, however, change her baby's name to Tupac Amaru Shakur. The name Tupac Amaru means shining royal serpent in Quechua. Afeni borrowed it from Tupac Amaru II, an Inca leader and warrior who came to power in 1570s Peru. Shakur translates to thankful to God in Arabic. After having Tupac, Afeni moved in with Lumumba's adopted brother, Dr. Mutulu Shakur, the former Jarrell Wayne Williams. Every boy needs a father, and Mutulu Shakur became a stepfather figure to Tupac. Mutulu and Tupac bonded, and Tulu, as Pac called him, maintained an influential and inspirational relationship with the super rap star throughout his life. In an interview, Mutulu recalled some of their early times this way. Tupac was always on top of what was happening. I mean, we spent many days and nights together when he was a little kid. I can recall when he would sit in on meetings, and he would say to me, "You don't like him, do you, Tulu?" And added, "I don't like him either." He was obviously a supreme listener, and one who would dissect every topic and come to his own conclusion and opinion. I don't know if you know about the early movement days, anywhere in the civil rights movement, the black liberation movement, church movement, or whatever. Meetings dominated your life. Meetings, 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 and more meetings. And Pac would be present at all of them. He would listen intently, and sometimes he would fall asleep, and when he would awake, I'd ask, "Are you ready to leave?" And he'd always say, "No, I want to stay." Years ago, we used to do concerts for political prisoners in Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, and all around the country. Pac would always be on the stage, talking and meeting everyone. Everyone liked to talk to Tupac, because his eyes always indicated that he wanted to hear what you had to say. His attentiveness as a young child was extremely powerful. He would just sit there and they just loved to talk to him. At an early age, he was of the people. Tupac's new family was about as far from white bread as you could get. An extended family tree of high-profile black activists and revolutionaries. And that brought chronic police harassment. At an early age, Tupac learned to cope with losing his loved ones to sudden death or imprisonment, and personally experienced the federal government's surveillance and dirty tricks. In 1973, Pac was a toddler when his Uncle Zaid and companion Assata Shakur were stopped by a New Jersey state trooper, Warner Forrester, while driving on the New Jersey Turnpike. Though the circumstances surrounding it are debatable, the traffic stop turned into a gun battle that left both Zaid and Forrester dead. Wounded, Assata survived, but a jury convicted her in State Trooper Forrester's death. 6 years later, in 1979, Assata escaped prison, again highlighting the family's nonconformity, resourcefulness, and controversial underground nature. Assata fled to Cuba and still lives there today, under political asylum granted by the Castro regime. In 1972, Tupac was only a year old when his godfather was sent to prison. Geronimo Dijaga, the former Geronimo Pratt, was a high-ranking Panther. Ignoring his innocent plea, the jury convicted Geronimo of a bizarre and sensational robbery murder of a woman on a tennis court in California. Even after Geronimo was sent to prison, many people maintained he was innocent. Not only did the prosecution's key witness lie under oath, hiding their relationship with law enforcement, but the FBI even penetrated Geronimo's defense team, sabotaging his defense, led by attorney Johnny Cochran of OJ fame. 25 years later, Geronimo's case was finally dismissed, and he was freed in 1997. There is no doubt that Tupac's early, chronic exposure to police harassment influenced his later creativity. As an artist, Tupac explored death-related themes relentlessly, and living during his boyhood with dedicated revolutionaries who lived under constant surveillance, no doubt instilled the chronic paranoia that others noticed in Tupac the Man. Mutulu talks about it this way: "I think that when people get discouraged with others, it creates a very sad emotion. We all have been, at one time or another, disappointed with someone, and we respond to that disappointment. Some of us respond differently, and there are some of us who might withdraw altogether. I think the movement, or the failure of it, and including when I went underground, was something Tupac felt bad about. I think that it was a good period in his life to be active, to focus more on family, with the tension, pressure, and the smell of gunfire being a prevalent circumstance in our life. Local police, the FBI, and the intelligence department of this country had a full court press on many of the people that Tupac had learned from. Most of his uncles, and all of the people that took care of him when Afeni and I couldn't, had been in jail, killed, had been arrested, or were just a part of that environment. So he had lived that. That's not a lyric without experience. That's experience." Early on, Afeni focused on ensuring that Tupac would escape their impoverished conditions. She made Black Prince his official nickname, and for misbehaving, he would have to read the entire edition of the New York Times. But Afeni couldn't shield him from every problem. Because they were usually broke, they moved around a lot. Tupac, his mom, and his half-sister Sechwa moved from the Bronx to Harlem and through a series of homeless shelters. The future rap icon moved around so much that he wasn't really from anywhere. Tupac's lack of a permanent home, coupled with the politically violent world around him, hindered Tupac's social skills. The superstar figure who many would later imitate felt like he didn't fit in anywhere, and the mystery of who his real father was only added to his feelings of isolation. Tupac was 5 years old when he met his father, Billy Garland, but they never had a significant relationship. And over time, Tupac's fatherlessness wore him down. He felt unmanly, and when his cousins teased him that his face looked girlish, it hurt. Recently, Jamil Hassan, one of Tupac's friends from those days, recounted the time he spent with Pac when the two of them were shorties. Currently a rapper with the Black Panther Fugitives, a positive-themed rap group, Jamil lived for a number of years in Pac's household in New York. Like Tupac, both Jamil's parents were members of the Black Panther Party, and extremely active in the movement, just like Tupac's. Jamil's father sang with the Panther group, The Lumpin'. When Jamil's parents split, Jamil and his mother landed in New York, where she was friends with Afeni. Jamil remembers it this way: "Back in '80, that's when me and Pac were going to Black Liberation Army rallies. I was on the congas and Pac would be up there reciting poetry like he was Langston Hughes or some shit. We were real revolutionaries then. While our partners was at arcades, fairs, and the movies doing kid shit, we was on stage in front of thousands of people, not even tripping off the ramifications of what we were doing. All we knew was that we had to free Uncle So-and-so, that was our mama's friend, someone who frequented our house or family. Back in those days, it was going down for real." Right around that time, me and Pac were starting to feel our nuts, so to speak. When our parents were away fighting cases, which they always were, we was out doing wild shit, like robbing liquor stores. We stayed in Manhattan. When Tupac's mother was at work, we would go to Afeni's sister's, Pac's Aunt Jean's house in the Bronx. Or else we'd go to Gaddafi's mom, Yasmin Fula's house in Brooklyn. Everybody was in the projects in the late 70s, early 80s. Pac's cousins from his mom's side, Billy and them, used to torment us. They'd be putting hot sauce in our noses when we were asleep. Once they made Tupac jump out of a 12-foot window into a 6-foot pool. To escape his troubles, Tupac turned to writing, filling journals with love songs and poetry. In his mind, he took the first step in becoming one of the world's greatest MCs, proclaiming in his journal that he was going to be famous. Afeni noticed her prince's artistic abilities and enrolled Tupac in Harlem's 127th Street Ensemble, a theater group. It was there that he got his first role, playing Travis in A Raisin in the Sun. It was also where he found his challenge as well as his escape. In acting, he could step away from his problems, be someone else for a while, and feel free. But his refuge was short-lived. Tupac was 15 when his stepfather Mutulu was arrested on federal racketeering charges and indicted for robbing banks to finance a militant organization. During that robbery, 2 Nyack, New York policemen and a Brinks armored car guard were killed. Mutulu was also charged with aiding his radical sister, Afeni Shakur, in escaping prison. Tupac's stepfather went underground, and the FBI responded by putting him on their 10 most wanted list. So in June 1986, the Shakur family moved again, this time to Baltimore. East Baltimore, Greenmont Avenue to be more precise, a dangerous, derelict area when Pac lived there. Things were tough at first for Tupac. He had a weird name. Some guys called him a girl, and he didn't wear trendy clothing. Darian Bastfield was one guy who did befriend Pac then, and remained friends with the star to the end. Bastfield recalled Pac as a skinny 13-year-old in shabby clothes, saying, "He may have looked uncool, but he blew the school away at a talent show. He gave an electrifying performance." His teachers remembered him as a very gifted student. But even though he loved literature, he hid this fact from his peers in order to try to fit in. It didn't help. The other kids dissed him anyway, first during his time at Roland Park Middle School, and then again during his freshman year at Paul Laurence Dunbar High School. So the next September, his mother enrolled him in the Baltimore School for the Arts, giving Tupac a chance to return to the arts for comfort and challenge. Tupac learned a few things he didn't expect at the School for the Arts. Contrary to some of the beliefs his Black Panther mentors taught, Pac realized he could trust some white people. So he started adding a few white friends to his crew in school. However, he was still 100% Tupac, and he remained outspoken about racial equality. Tupac resumed the creative studies he'd last pursued in New York, studying acting and ballet, and reading books on Eastern religions, and even entire sets of encyclopedias. Darren Bastfield, who had also transferred to the art school, recalled Tupac's encounter there with Salt and Pepper, as well as the wild night of the 1988 senior prom. It was also there where Tupac met one of the more important females who would remain in his life. Classmate Jada Pinkett acted as his personal muse, becoming both the sometime subject of the young Tupac's poetry and also his close friend. They even made a music video at King's Dominion, where they lip-synced to Will Smith's Parents Just Don't Understand. While Will and Jada eventually became a couple, the three of them remained lifelong friends. Tupac's life had begun to look up. He felt more in touch with himself, and soon fell into Baltimore's rap scene. In his new, smaller southern scene, his New York background gave him a tough reputation, and he milked it, winning a measure of respect and composing his first rap song under the name MC New York. Rapping about gun control, the song was inspired by the fatal shooting of one of his close friends. How much of his tough guy image was acting? Circumstances would test that question soon enough. Hindered by her burgeoning drug addiction, as well as her Panther resume, Afeni had trouble finding work. So, before Tupac could finish high school, his family fled again. To live with a friend in Marine City, California, a city nicknamed the Jungle. Not far from Oakland, and just a stone's throw from Berkeley, the Panthers' birthplace. Tupac later described his uprooting from the Baltimore Art School and crash landing in California as where I got off track. Hassled occasionally for playing loud music, he showed contempt for law enforcement when it showed up, but he didn't look for trouble. His family life in chaos, Shakur drifted into Oakland street gang life, moving in with a neighbor and selling drugs, and managed to accumulate a criminal record with 8 arrests by the start of his 20s. However, despite dealing drugs in Marine City, Tupac had no actual criminal record before his recording career. But as Tupac grew more famous, he clashed with the law more frequently, muddying his growing public image. Over the next few years, the sometimes stunned, sometimes supportive public watched from the sidelines as both Tupac's music and criminal careers made significant, if sometimes conflicting, strides forward. In a more constructive vein, Pac continued to work on his Baltimore-born rap skills. He made new friends who encouraged his interest in rap. Together with Ray Love and DJ Dizzy, he started a rap group called Strictly Dope. They performed locally, attracted some attention, and made some recordings, which wouldn't hit the streets until years later. By 1991, Digital Underground had scored a big hit with their song Humpty Dance. Meanwhile, Strictly Dope's neighborhood performances brought Tupac enough buzz to land an audition with Digital Underground's Shock G, which led to Pac's work as a roadie, dancer, and rapper with the group. It was while on tour with them that he learned that his mother Afeni was on crack. Already committed to be a performer, Tupac resolved to deal with the situation as best he could while staying on the road with Digital. More personal drama followed when, in 1991, after hiding out for 5 years, Mutulu was caught and sent to jail for the 1986 bank robbery and murder charges. Despite claiming his innocence, Mutulu got 60 years in prison. His case is currently on appeal. Tupac never lost touch with Mutulu, and the two continued to stay in touch throughout his life. Tupac made his recording debut on Digital's This Is an EP release, appearing on their modest hit, Same Song, which also made the soundtrack for the 1991 movie Nothing But Trouble. Then he recorded Number One with a Bullet with Raw Fusion, before rapping again with Digital on their second album, Sons of the P. That album featured Tupac on 3 songs. He was not yet the artist who fans would later admire. His early lyrics were unimpressive, and he was viewed somewhat askance for both his tendency to act like a diva and for his occasionally violent outbursts. By the end of his first year with Digital, Pac's solo career was underway. Tupac wrote almost all of his own lyrics, but while Shakur was a talented rapper, producing was not his forte, so Pac asked Shock G to pick the beats. Pac's background continued to influence him artistically, and compelled him to use his emerging podium to call attention to issues he still cared about. Initially, Tupac had trouble shopping his solo debut, Tupacalypse Now, to the labels. Tupacalypse addressed issues from police brutality, poverty and unemployment, to black-on-black crime, teenage pregnancy, and crack addiction. Although there was some variety on the album, the rage and violence of Tupac's other songs, like his lead single Trapped and I Don't Give a Fuck, grabbed the public's attention. Interscope Records eventually agreed to distribute Tupacalypse Now, but protests, controversies, and threats of censorship surrounded the release of the record. Tupacalypse Now was an impressive debut and a fitting start to Tupac's legendary career. The album itself did not do as well commercially as Tupac had hoped. It sparked no #1 hits. However, it eventually earned gold record status and a spot at #4 on the R&B charts. Many called it violent gangster rap, filled with images of violence by and against police. More public criticism followed in April 1991, when 19-year-old Ronald Ray Howard killed a Texas trooper and claimed he was inspired by the album. His defense attorney claimed that Tupacalypse Now, which was in his car's tape deck, incited Howard to kill. Former Vice President Dan Quayle, as part of a zealous morality crusade, publicly denounced the album as having no place in our society. But others defended him, saying he was merely calling the black community to wake up and fight back. Some would say his wake-up message still resonates today and accounts in large part for his continued following. In Oakland, California, October 1991, 2 officers stopped Shakur allegedly for jaywalking. Pac responded by saying, "Fuck y'all," which, while it does fall under free speech, is probably not recommended in a police situation. The police then choked, beat, and smashed Tupac's head on the pavement. Bruised but not defeated, Tupac responded by suing the Oakland Police Department for $10 million. He eventually settled for $42,000. Later that year, Pac got involved in a fight with old acquaintances back in Marine City. After they exchanged gunfire, a 6-year-old bystander lied dead from head wounds. Police arrested Pac's half-brother Maurice Harding in connection with that incident, but he was later released on lack of evidence. With such bad press, Tupac seemed to fit the role his detractors claimed he was, the ruthless gangster. But the next year, Tupac tagged along with bandmate Money B to an audition for the hip-hop film Juice, and landed a prominent part in the movie, debuting on the big screen in the role of Bishop. As a child, Tupac had dreamed of becoming a Shakespearean actor. While he never got to that level, industry professionals noticed his acting talent. Critic Peter Travers named him the film's most magnetic figure when he reviewed Juice for Rolling Stone magazine. Echoing his experience with Tupacalypse Now, the movie industry went on to censor the Juice movie advertising, removing a gun from posters and billboards. His second CD, the more successful Strictly for My Niggas, was heavily produced by Stretch and the Live Squad. Remaking an ugly slur into something positive, Shakur reclaimed the word nigga as his own acronym, initials which he said now stood for Never Ignorant, Getting Goals Accomplished. The sophomore disc birthed 2 #1 hits, the playful I Get Around, and Pac's ode to black women, the emotional Keep Your Head Up. Critics and fans felt that Keep Your Head Up was a particularly important song in Tupac's career. At a time when most rap music pushed harsh misogyny and violence towards women, Tupac was an artist who chose to reach out and respect black women. Keep Your Head Up professed an enduring love for all black women, with Tupac's uniquely real, yet tender, poetic take on the black female situation. Raising the bar for male rappers' pro-female songs, Keep Your Head Up remains one song that other rap artists find a tough act to follow. Meanwhile, the Niggas CD reached #4 on the R&B charts, and eventually became Pac's first platinum disc. As his music and acting exposed him to even more fans, Pac's criminal record also progressed. In March 1993, Tupac got into a fight with a Hollywood limo driver, who accused him of using drugs in the car. After his arrest, the charges were dropped. While this was happening, Tupac continued to pursue his acting career. Despite his bad press, in 1993 he landed a starring role opposite Janet Jackson in John Singleton's Poetic Justice, which also featured the poetry of Maya Angelou. At the time, Singleton was best known for directing Boys in the Hood. This time, Singleton was headed out to put a new spin on the road movie genre. In Poetic Justice, Janet plays Justice, a young LA beautician and poet who is mourning the boyfriend she lost to gang violence. Tupac's character, a postman named Lucky, meets Justice and travels together with her to Oakland. Their journey through the world outside the hood proves eye-opening and liberating for both of them. At the time, Janet and Singleton were already close friends, going way back as junior high classmates together. But Tupac's experience on the set was mixed. Janet's managers kept nagging him to take an AIDS test before doing any love scenes with Janet. Said Tupac, "If I were really going to make love to Janet Jackson, sure, I'd take an AIDS test. I'd take every test. But come on, they were love scenes. We were just acting, man." While the film had mixed reviews, critics and fans seemed to enjoy Tupac's performance. Here's what one fan had to say on the subject. "All I remember hearing about when this movie came out was how bad it was, or how Janet and Tupac didn't act very well. Come to find out, those critics were wrong. This movie is very well made, and Janet and Tupac work wonderfully together. The film is very sad in parts and can turn around and be abrasive too, because of the rough language and subject material. But don't be put off. The movie more accurately depicts the flavor, the people, and places where the movie occurs, exactly because of this stylized abrasiveness." Despite the film's mixed reviews in July of 1993, Tupac's own acting career seemed to be getting real, if Pac could stay out of trouble. In October of 1993, Shakur busted 2 off-duty Atlanta cops for, as he saw it, harassing a black motorist on the side of the road. After fighting with them, Pac shot both officers, one in the leg and one in the butt. He faced serious charges. That is, until the court discovered that both officers were intoxicated during the incident and were using weapons stolen from a police evidence locker. The charges against Shakur were dismissed. In late 1993, Tupac formed the group Thug Life with a few of his friends, Big Sky, Macadocious, his stepbrother Mopreme, and Rated R. They went into the studio to record, hoping to release a CD the next year. Then in December 1993, Shakur was charged with sexually abusing a 19-year-old woman in his hotel room. According to Tupac, it went down this way. An arrangement was set up to meet a female fan at a club called Nell's. The person arranging the meetup described the fan as wanting to more than meet him. Tupac described her as dumpy, but she allegedly gave Pac oral sex on Nell's dance floor. Then Shakur took her back to his hotel room. When he talked about what went down that night with his buddies, Shakur recalled one friend getting overexcited. He dismissed it at the time, but later remembered the guy seemed obsessed. 4 days later, after doing a show in New Jersey at Club 88, that same obsessed guy called the woman back to the hotel. But when she arrived, it was clear that she was all about Tupac. With his friends all leering at the woman, Pac decided to take her into the room and get a massage. Before the massage got sensual, Tupac's buddies interrupted the couple. They wanted to enjoy the woman's attentions themselves. Shakur said he got disgusted at that point, but didn't want to claim the woman as his own either. He then said he left the room to talk to his publicist and take a nap, leaving the girl to fend for herself. Tupac then said that when he awoke, he found the girl fully dressed, crying hysterically, and Pac's buddies all frantically trying to calm her. But the girl disagreed with Pac's versions of events and accused him of pulling her hair, encouraging the 3 men to accost her, and performing sodomy on her. Tupac ended up being charged with rape. That accusation would end up dealing a series of blows to Pac's acting career. After hiring a team of lawyers to defend himself in the case, Tupac tried to get back to his music and acting careers. However, the court sentenced Shakur to 4.5 years for forcibly touching her buttocks. In December 1993, Columbia Pictures forced John Singleton to drop Tupac from the cast of his upcoming film, Higher Learning. Undaunted, Pac and his new crew went into the recording studio, and by 1994, they released their first album, Thug Life Volume 1, on Interscope Records. But while Pac was able to keep his roller coaster career going in fits and starts, the stress he was under began to take its toll. In March 1994, Tupac was sentenced to 15 days in a Los Angeles jail for punching out director Alan Hughes after Hughes and his brother Albert dropped Tupac from their movie Menace to Society. Ironically, 2 weeks later, Pac hit the big screen as Birdie in Above the Rim, and the movie's soundtrack featuring Thug Life's song Pour Out a Little Liquor went on to sell over 2 million copies. Thug Life Volume 1 would not match the platinum success of Strictly For My Niggas, but the CD did rise to number 6 on the R&B charts and managed to go gold. However, the group subsequently disbanded after Shakur's release from prison. Then in September, 2 Milwaukee teens murder a police officer, and once again their defense team cites Tupac as their inspiration, this time naming Soulja's story. As a result of all this, Tupac's legal bills and negative press grew, while his shows and other work opportunities got canceled. A few months later, Tupac was recording tracks in New York City for Ron G. It was November 30th, 1994. While he was in the studio, Tupac got a call from an acquaintance, Booker, whom he didn't quite trust, to come and record a song for Little Sean's upcoming album. The producers were offering Pac $7,000 to do it. Needing the money to fund his mounting legal fees and to support his family, Tupac set out with his close friend Stretch, manager Freddie Moore, and one other friend. Their destination? Quad Recording Studios in Times Square. Pac later recalled that when he entered the building, he intuitively felt that something was wrong. He noticed two men dressed in fatigues who ignored him. At this level of his celebrity, there were very few black men in New York that would ignore him. But Pac ignored his better intuition, since, as he put it, he had just finished smoking some chronic. Instead, he assumed they were security for the notorious B.I.G., whom he was still friends with at that time. By the time Pac made it to the elevator and turned around, he was staring at two identical 9mm guns. Then the two men forced Pac and his friends to the floor. Witnesses remembered the gunsman's aggression was focused almost exclusively on Tupac, although they did threaten to shoot Stretch as well. Pac froze and would not remove his jewelry. One of the fatigued men then searched him, taking $40,000 in jewelry, and then stuck the gun into Pac's stomach and pulled the trigger. Tupac took 5 shots in a serious beating. One shot passed through the skin of his testicles, and another bullet passed through the skin on his head.
They had said that he had his testicle shot. And the first time I went to visit him after that, he made it a point to show me that he did not have his testicles shot off. And then he went like that, and of course, I knew he was my son.
Strangely, Pac was the only person of his entourage who was intentionally shot or beaten. The only other wounded party had been accidentally struck by a bullet, but only after it had already passed through Pac's leg. Then the police hit the scene en masse, which somehow prompted Tupac's friends to drag him onto an elevator, taking them all upstairs to safety. The surreal scene that greeted Pac upstairs that night would haunt Tupac to the end of his days. There were lots of people up there, his then friends Biggie, Puffy, Little Caesar, and others. All of them were wearing more jewels than he did, and none of them seemed surprised to see that he'd been shot. Pac recalled that his first words, after realizing the severity of his wounds, were, "Oh shit, roll me some weed." Then, the wounded Pac's suspicions returned. He realized that the people in the room had set him up. Whatever shock he saw on their faces was just their shock that he had somehow survived his own intended murder. His realization staggered him and put him on the defensive. At the hospital, he was receiving suspicious phone calls, and his protection, the fruit of Islam, had no guns. Unsure of his safety, Tupac checked himself out of the hospital less than 3 hours after surgery, and his family took him to a safer spot elsewhere in the city. Despite its being an obvious attempted murder of a high-profile victim, the case remained strangely unsolved. But despite the danger, Tupac did not hide out for long. Not wanting the jury to think he skipped court for frivolous reasons, Tupac showed up for his verdict on the ongoing rape charge. On December 1st, 1994, the court acquitted Tupac of the sodomy and weapons charges. However, the jury found Tupac guilty of sexual abuse. Freed on bond before his sentencing, Pac immediately went back into the recording studio to finish his newest album. Until, on February 14th, 1995, Tupac found himself sentenced to 4.5 years, and immediately started serving his time in Rikers Island Penitentiary. Soon after Tupac's jailing, his album Me Against the World was released, giving him the distinction of being the only artist with an album at #1 on the charts while serving a prison sentence. The CD eventually went multi-platinum. The track Dear Mama was especially poignant, a heartfelt homage to his mother, equal parts strong and street, honestly depicting the struggles he and his family had gone through together. Determined to use his jail time constructively, Tupac pursued his longtime interest in reading, especially delving into the works of Nicholas Machiavelli. In addition, he also wrote a feature-length screenplay called Live to Tell, and married his longtime girlfriend, Keisha Morris. In an interview during his time at Rikers, Tupac had this to say: "Well, the first 2 days in prison I had to go through what life is like when you've been smoking weed for as long as I have, and then you stop. Emotionally, it was like I didn't know myself. I was sitting in a room, like there was 2 people in the room, evil and good. That was the hardest part. After that, the weed was out of me. Then I started doing like 1,000 push-ups for myself every day. I was reading whole books in one day and writing, and that was putting me in a peace of mind. Then I started seeing my situation and what got me here. Even though I'm innocent of the charge they gave me, I'm not innocent in terms of the way I was acting. I'm just as guilty for not doing nothing as I am for doing things. Not with this case, but just in my life. I had a job to do and I never showed up. I was so scared of this responsibility that I was running away from it. But I see now that whether I show up for work or not, the evil forces are going to be at me. They're going to come 100%, so if I don't be 100% pure-hearted, I'm going to lose. And that's why I'm losing. When I got in here, all the prisoners was like, fuck that gangster rapper. I'm not a gangster rapper. I rap about things that happened to me. I got shot 5 times, you know what I'm saying? People was really trying to kill me. It was really real like that. I don't see myself being special. I just see myself having more responsibilities than the next man. People look to me to do things for them, to have answers. I wasn't having answers because my brain was half dead from smoking so much weed. I'd be in my hotel room smoking too much, drinking, going to clubs, just being numb. That was being in jail to me. I wasn't happy at all on the streets. Nobody could say they saw me happy. The addict in Tupac is dead. The excuse maker in Tupac is dead. The vengeful Tupac is dead. The Tupac that would stand by and let dishonorable things happen is dead. God let me live for me to do something extremely extraordinary, and that's what I have to do. Even if they give me the maximum sentence, that's still my job. It was during his Rikers time when Pac also publicly implicated Biggie, Puffy, Andre Harrell, and his close friend Stretch in the recording studio ambush. Naturally, Andre Harrell, Biggie, and Combs gave their own interviews denying any and all allegations. However, Pac's friend Stretch was found murdered, execution style, on the 1-year anniversary of the 1994 shooting in November 1995. At the same time, the East-West rift in the hip-hop community was widening. While the East Coast rappers watched the West Coast albums rise sharply in mainstream popularity, a number of players in the music community lamented the West Coast rappers' violent and misogynistic lyrics. And other old-school New York rappers complained that the West was ruining the art form, scolding them for what they thought was an overuse of sampling. Since Tupac hailed from both coasts, he was potentially stuck in the middle of it. But even though Pac felt the East Crew's statements disrespected the accomplishments made by the West Coast pioneers, he preferred to leave it at that. They were just two schools of musical thought with a difference of opinion. Live and let live, so to speak. Tupac went on to serve 8 months of his sentence before Death Row's Suge Knight and his lawyers engineered a deal to release Tupac on a $1.4 million bond, pending his appeal. Now out of jail, Tupac again went straight to the studio. Unfortunately, his Thug Life crew disbanded. So Tupac turned to Dr. Dre. In February of 1996, Pac made waves by suggesting he'd been sleeping with Biggie's wife, Faith Evans. Evans denied it. Later that month, Tupac dropped All Eyez on Me, the first ever hip-hop double album. Topping both the R&B and pop charts, the CD sold an amazing 5 million copies by April. The Dr. Dre-produced lead single on the album, California Love, was a club banger that let everybody know Tupac was back. However, it also brought the New York-born rapper more heat from the East, including resentment at Pac's apparent allegiance to the West Coast. Pac didn't agree that the allegiance was new, and in any case, it was his own business. Having been living in Cali for years, Pac saw it was showing his love for the cities and state he lived in. Tupac unloaded his frustrations into scathing lyrics, which included his usually eloquent musings on death, as well as what seemed to some people like paranoid delusions. Through all of this, Tupac felt his poetry was rooted in the same issues that old-school hip-hop voiced, though not everyone understood that. 1 month after Tupac released All Eyez on Me, East literally battled West, as members of Death Row and Bad Boy Records faced off. After the Soul Train Awards in Los Angeles, members from both entourages exchanged words, and at least one person pulled a gun. By April of 1996, All Eyez on Me had gone quintuple platinum, and Tupac would soon head back to the Slammer to sit out a new 4-month sentence for refusing to do the road cleanup work that was part of his original parole. But for the moment, Tupac and Snoop were on set, filming the video for Two of America's Most Wanted, with Tupac directing. In an interview, the duo had a few things to say about the video. Said Tupac, "The video was just as much a Snoop video as it is mine. We all move as one because Death Row, we really like that, you know what I mean?" To which Snoop Dogg added, "It's setting up my album. We're a track and field team." And Tupac replied, "We're gonna tag team them all day. And if there's a tag team around that knows about being wanted men, it's Tupac and Snoop Dogg." Two of America's Most Wanted was written when Snoop's murder trial was beginning and my jail sentence had ended. Finally, Snoop Dogg added, "When I wrote it, I was so happy that Pac was out of jail. I wanted people to know what I was thinking about in my case. And I was thinking about him as well, because if they take me away, they gotta let him out. You can take one of us, but you can't take both of us." The Two of America's Most Wanted video depicted Biggie and Puffy getting punished for setting up Tupac. Meanwhile, Tupac also released the hard-hitting Hit 'Em Up, a biting diatribe against Biggie, Bad Boy Records, and any other people who had irked him. By that point, tensions were sky high. What began as a difference of artistic style had morphed into a vicious feud between two factions of the hip-hop community, with personal reps perceived to be at stake. When Pac returned to New York for the MTV Awards on September 4th, he got into a minor scuffle. Rumors began to circulate that he was leaving Death Row, and maybe rap as well, perhaps to focus on acting and other personal projects. September 7th, 1996. Mike Tyson and Bruce Sheldon fight at the MGM Grand Hotel in Las Vegas, and Tupac is in the audience. As he was leaving, Pac got into an altercation with an unidentified man. Security broke up the fight and briefly questioned the man before releasing him. No one got the man's name. Later that night, Tupac was a passenger in a car Suge Knight was driving, and they stopped in traffic. Suddenly, a suspect riding in a white Cadillac opened fire on Suge's car, hitting Tupac 4 times in the chest. Paramedics rushed Pac to the University of Nevada Medical Center, where he underwent surgery, which included the removal of his right lung. Tupac spent 6 days in critical condition. Finally, at 4:03 p.m., September 13th, 1996, Tupac Amaru Shakur passed from this world. From the start, Pac's mom, Afeni, had constantly feared for her son's life, saying, "I never believed he would live to adulthood. Every 5 years, I'd be just amazed that he made it to 5. He made it to 10. He made it to 15. I had 1,000,000 miscarriages. This child stayed in my womb through the worst possible conditions. I had to get a court order to get an egg to eat every day. I had to get a court order to get a glass of milk every day, you know what I'm saying? I lost weight, but he gained weight. He was born 1 month and 3 days after we were acquitted. Before Tupac, I had not been able to carry a child. Then Tupac comes along and hangs on. He really fought for his life. He may have left us, but Pac still has a lot to say. Feeling his own murder was likely, Tupac had worked feverishly since his 1994 ambush to create a huge catalog of unreleased work in poetry, music, and video to speak for him, as he said, in the event of my demise. In 1997 alone, 3 Tupac films were released: Gridlocked, Bullet, and Gang Related. Up until his death, Tupac had been hard at work on his latest album. 2 months after his death, Death Row released Tupac's first posthumous album, The Don Killuminati, The 7-Day Theory, released under the alias Machiavelli. Rumored to have been recorded in 7 days, it topped both the R&B and pop charts and sold over 4 million copies. Intentionally or not, The Illuminati album contributed to the plethora of conspiracy theories. The most popular of these presumes Tupac is still alive, maybe living under an alias in Cuba with his aunt Asada. Fans in denial still cite presumed clues, poring over Pac's lyrics since his '94 shooting, and the choice of the posthumous alias, Machiavelli. To these fans, Pac's video for I Ain't Mad at Ya seemed eerily similar to the actual events leading up to his death. On top of all that, the fact that he was cremated less than 48 hours after he was killed led many fans to believe he was still alive, or at least that foul play was involved. There were many murder suspects as well. Apparently, there were a number of people who may have wanted Tupac dead. Some feel Pac's Black Panther heritage and the post-fame persecution he received point to a government-led plot to silence the most popular Panther-related voice. It never has been clear what police actually did to solve Tupac's murder. Almost a decade later, the crime remains unsolved. To the media, the East Coast-West Coast rivalry seemed the most likely theory. Tupac's main East Coast rival, the notorious B.I.G., was gunned down 6 months later, on March 9, 1997. Others point to Suge Knight, who has connections with the Bloods and Death Row Records, who stood to lose at least tens of millions of dollars if Pac indeed left the family. The suspicion seemed bolstered by the fact that, despite driving the car, Suge himself escaped Tupac's fatal incident with only minor injuries.
Tonight's shocking allegations against the city's top cop. Former Detective Russell Poole has filed suit against the department. Poole says he uncovered dirty cops while investigating the murders of rappers Biggie Smalls and Tupac Shakur.
I provided the chief with enough information and evidence that would warrant a full probe, and at that meeting I was ordered not to investigate any further.
Well, that's basically what it appears to be, a retaliation. Okay, and I think Suge Knight wanted it to look that way. You got to ask yourself one question: why haven't these cases been solved? And one reason that they were well orchestrated, well planned out, radios being used, communication, and it had to be experienced people doing this, which would lead you to believe that experienced police officers knew exactly what to do. You know, had we been able to aggressively investigate and had the heart to connect the two and do a thorough investigation, I think we probably would have found out more information. I think the fact that law enforcement officers were working for death row, and that was a scandal in itself, okay? The fact that law enforcement officers were working for gangsters, known felons, because it was no secret that Death Row Records was involved in drug trafficking.
In fact, in late 2005, it was reported that Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney was attempting to pass legislation for the public release of all files in the life and murder of Tupac Shakur. McKinney's report noted that at the time of Tupac's and Biggie's deaths, Tupac, Biggie, Death Row, and Bad Boy Records were under FBI, ATF, IRS, NYPD, and LAPD surveillance and/or investigation. This announcement followed the recent news that a federal probe had also reopened its investigation into Tupac's 1994 ambush at New York's Quad Studios. But Tupac's family would lose one more member that year as well. Tupac's half-brother, Yafeu Fula, also known as Gaddafi. On November 10, 1996, 19-year-old Gaddafi suffered a gunshot to the head, execution style. He was found dead sometime later, slumped against a wall on the third floor of a New Jersey apartment block. Some think the reason behind his murder is due to the fact that he was the only witness willing to testify in Tupac's murder. The outlaws only revealed that the pair were half-brothers after their demise. It is believed that the pair shared the same father, William Garland. Pac's sister Sechwa commented on living through that time this way. Death was all around me. The son of a close friend of Mom's committed suicide. Another cousin of mine in Baltimore killed himself. Yefeyu, my cousin, dead. Tupac, dead. It was no big thing to me to think about dying. It had to be better than living in rage, living in pain and sadness. Tupac's professional recording career spanned just 5 short years, and yet his prodigious talent left his fans with a huge volume of his art to hold on to. Death Row released Tupac material annually, spawning 6 chart-topping and often multi-platinum albums. After Tupac's death, Afeni Shakur sued Death Row for mismanagement of Tupac's royalties, as well as to receive ownership of his music. She eventually prevailed. In 1999, the Shakur estate, in collaboration with Linda Steinberg, published the book The Rose That Grew from Concrete, which consisted of 71 poems written by Pac from 1989 to 1991. And in 2001, Tupac's recordings with his first Oakland group Strictly Dope was finally released under the title Tupac Shakur, The Lost Tapes. By 2002, Tupac's first 5 posthumous albums had already brought over $40 million to his estate. In 2002 alone, more than 2.7 million of Shakur's CDs were sold, 6 years after his death. Forbes magazine ranked Tupac as its 10th richest deceased celebrity for that year. Through his estate's Amaru Entertainment, Afeni recently produced a double CD of her son's unreleased songs. And on September 20th, 2005, Amaru Entertainment released The Rose Volume 2, music inspired by Tupac's poetry. In June 2005, Afeni Shakur opened the Tupac Amaru Shakur Center for the Arts in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Sitting on a 6-acre campus, the center will focus on mentoring high-risk youth between the ages of 12 and 18. At a price tag of $4 million, the center was funded mostly through royalties from Pac's albums, DVDs, and film projects. And more projects are underway, including the popular Machiavelli clothing line, upcoming videos from previously unseen footage, unreleased tracks, and even his sister Sechwa's new clothing line for women, Mademoiselle. Pac once said, "It always happens that all niggas that change the world die violently." Tupac was someone who was proud to stand up and fight for his beliefs. Like his rose that grew from concrete, Pac came up from impossible circumstances to inspire millions. And though some tried to destroy him, Tupac's inspirational genius, his music, his poetry, and his spirit live on. Tupac himself put it this way: "In the event of my demise, when my heart can beat no more, I hope I die for a principle or a belief that I have lived for. I will die before my time because I feel the shadow's depth. So much I wanted to accomplish before I reached my death. I have come to grips with the possibility and wiped the last tear from my eyes. I loved all who were positive in the event of my demise."
Mics, I hold them, spit what's golden. From head to toe, stay fresh when I'm strolling. 80s break danced on linoleum. Head spins, back spins, look, it's back again. A circle, the cipher brings the light through. Tag walls with names, things we might do. Along with break battles, along with rap battles. A long way we come, still pushing the throttle. I stay focused, now y'all can quote this. I'ma breathe hip-hop till my days are over. Each step I take.